It's also worth asking, Jubai, how members of the public might, some would say victim instigation with respect to the incidents of extrajudicial killing. Is it that in some cases the victims constitute a threat to the law enforcement officers at the material time of the incident, or the officers themselves are just on the frolic of their own, unrestrained and uncontrolled? What are the sanctions for those who have been found guilty of extrajudicial killings?
That's a good question, Kingsley. Others also refer to the conditions under which policemen and other security agents operate and their state of mind. Some have even suggested that perhaps it is expedient to subject any arm-bearing personnel to psychological or psychiatric evaluation to avoid cases of extrajudicial killings.
So this morning we have guests from various fields who will weigh in on extrajudicial killings in Nigeria. That's the topic that, of course, we shall be examining in our conversation segment on Good Morning Nigeria. So on that note, of course, I would like to welcome you. My name is Kingsley Osadolo.
And I'm Juma Yusuf. Thanks for joining us. On the program this morning, as always, we'll bring you the complimentary segments, which include newspaper review, business, sports, foreign, and entertainment news. Let's now join Ruth Aguele with the morning news. Hello, Ruth.
Hello, Juma and Kingsley. Thank you for joining us on the AM News. Now, the Federal Executive Council has approved a $200 billion credit facility towards financing the generation of at least 76.5 megawatts of electricity for rural communities under the Nigerian Electrification Project. Also approved is the North Core Dozel Regional Transmission Project, aimed at creating a regional power pool in West Africa to facilitate energy trade amongst participating countries. Finance Minister Zainab Ahmed, who announced this while briefing newsmen after the meeting of the Council, presided over by President Muhammadu Buhari.
About 500,000 people will be able to obtain access to electricity, and this is about 105,000 households. There will be 8 universities that will be benefiting from this scheme, and about 20,000 small, micro, medium enterprises across different communities in the nation.
Meanwhile, the presidency has announced the rescheduling of the Federal Executive Council meeting. The meeting will now hold on Thursday, 25th April and Thursday, 2nd May 2019. A statement by the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, says the rescheduling of the meeting is due to Easter break and May Day celebrations. And now to legislative matters, President Muhammadu Buhari has made a passionate appeal to the returning and newly elected members of the House of Representatives on the platform of the governing APC not to allow the mistakes of 2015 be repeated regarding the election of presiding officers for the 9th National Assembly.
I have a nasty experience in 2015. Nasty in the sense that just like this election, our party has the majority in both houses, but the members of the party in the Senate allow themselves to be divided into two, have to be thrown off, and PDP was given virtually the control of the upper house. So that house then damned the national interest. They must be seen nationally and internationally that they are in charge, not the executive.
The police is your friend is a slogan that is expected to raise the seemingly negative perception of the police by members of the public as unfriendly. Now, each case of alleged extrajudicial killings by the police further exacerbates this perception. But ironically, even the police in some cases have been attacked and assaulted by members of the public. And in a bid to address all this, the Senate has passed a bill seeking to reform the Nigerian police force.
Establishment of community police forum is strongly recommended.
People wearing uniform to go and kidnap people, 5 million or imprisonment for a term of 5 years or both.
It's better you allow a criminal to escape than to lose the life of a citizen.
To provide for the framework for the police service and ensure cooperation and partnership between the police and communities in maintaining peace and combating crime, and for related matters 2019 He's ready third time and passed.
And still on security matters, wife of the president, Aisha Buhari, says all hands must be on deck towards addressing the monstrous challenge of insecurity in the country. This was when she met with wives of state governors at the presidential villa in Abuja.
She also invited an expert who also happens to be a woman to talk to us as wives of governors of what we can do to complement the effort of the security agencies and also our husbands, what they are doing in the various states.
So women are the key to solving security challenges because they are at home, they can influence a lot of things with their family.
President Muhammadu Buhari has commended one of the world's richest men, Bill Gates, for his consistent and generous support to public causes around the globe, and specifically for supporting the eradication of polio and HIV in Africa and in Nigeria in particular. Speaking in a telephone call to congratulate President upon his resounding election victory, winning the second four-year term of office, Mr. Gates, who said he was happy to be associated with the president, restated his commitment to the success of the administration as well as the progress, prosperity and well-being of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. He expressed willingness to do more for the country. Senior Special Assistant on Media and Publicity to the President, Garba Shehu, stated that President Buhari reiterated his opinion that Mr. Gates' wealth has benefited Nigeria's development and expressed appreciation for the call. President Muhammadu Buhari has approved the appointment of members of the board of the Social Insurance Trust Fund. The 12-member board, headed by a chartered accountant, professional insurance executive and banker, Mr. Austin Enajamo Isire, and Mrs. Ijoma Oji Okoronkwo, as secretary, will be inaugurated on the 18th of April 2019. President Buhari has also approved the appointment of Comrade Ovie Kokori as the new chairman of the Michael Imoudu National Institute for Labour Studies, Ilorin, Kwara State. The appointment is with immediate effect. President Muhammadu Buhari has asked ministers to hand in reports of their works by Wednesday, 24th of April 2019. Statement by the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media and Publicity states that as the first term of President Muhammadu Buhari's administration winds down, the President has asked for a comprehensive status reports on policies, programs and projects from cabinet members on their respective ministries, departments and agencies. These reports are to be submitted to the Presidential Audit Committee in the Office of the Vice President. A circular to this effect issued by the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, also requested members of the Federal Executive Council to ensure that all outstanding memoranda they intend to present to the Federal Executive Council are submitted to the Cabinet Affairs Office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, not later than Tuesday, 30th April 2019. Information and Culture Minister Lai Mohammed has again expressed satisfaction with the responses that trailed his engagement with the media and think tank groups in Washington, maintaining that the opportunity has given Nigeria a robust platform to place its cards on the table to understand the truth about happenings back home.
What impressed me most is that he believes that the conflicts in Nigeria have nothing or little to do with ethnicity or religion. That makes me very happy, because if at that level he sees our point of view, then I think it will make our messaging much easier.
And that's the news for now. Good Morning Nigeria continues with Kinsley and Jummai after this break. Stay with us.
Perfect family is under threat by germs. Infectious diseases are now the world's biggest killer of adults and children. These infectious diseases are caused by germs. They are everywhere. An average human being comes in contact with over 1 million germs daily in unclean water, dirty surfaces, in the toilets, on cuts and wounds, on your clothes. Germs can cause deadly diseases like typhoid, diarrhea, flu, and cough. To protect your family from germs, use the power of Dettol's One Capsule for surface cleaning in your bathing water, in your laundry water, for first aid to protect your family from up to 1 100 illness-causing germs.
Introducing Dettol Antiseptic Liquid in Sachet for only 40 naira.
Endorsed by the Nigerian Medical Association.
Marketing of broadcast media products requires special skills which can only be acquired through training and experience. NTA TV College Jos is therefore organizing an intensive 3-week course on modern trends in broadcast media marketing. The course will equip participants with necessary skills to deal with contemporary marketing challenges and competition in the broadcast media. It is an essential course for marketers in the broadcast media to sharpen their skills and improve their capacities. Date 23rd April to 10th May 2019. Venue NTA Television College Refuge Jos. Course fee 100,000 naira per participant, accommodation inclusive. For more inquiries, please contact us on 0803 314 4383 or 0806 980 9807. NTA TV College Jos, training you to be the best you want to be.
When I was a little girl, I loved spending time with Mum and Grandma cleaning the house. I was so excited to sing in the choir. And your shirts are always so white. I knew what Mum's secret was. Today, I'm a modern woman that still trusts the secret passed down to me. It's Jik, of course. The original trusted bleach, which can be used all around your house for amazing results. Shh, it's our little secret. It's no secret. It's Jik's best ever extra whitening power. Just Jik it.
If you hear a bomb explosion or gunshots of an active shooter, that might be a terror attack. At such times, always remember 3 action words. Run, hide, report. Don't try to run towards the terror scene to save the situation, because there might be a second bomb blast or another attack. Run far away and take cover. Make sure you are safe first. Yes, it is in our nature to sympathize over the hurt, but remember, only trained personnel can help in such situations. When in a secured environment, promptly call relevant authorities and help will come. For anonymous reporting, call 09630-3250-5 or 0813-2222-106. If you see something, say something. Nigeria unite against terrorism. This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
All right, you're welcome back, and now it's time for us to have business stories, and here is our correspondent, Comfort Amudu.
As part of efforts to sustain the agricultural revolution, ensure food security and strengthen the Nigerian economy, the federal government has commenced the process of commercializing and recapitalizing of the Bank of Agriculture. The government also targets saving of financial institutions from total collapse through the initiative.
Let's have a strong bank, a farmers' bank, a bank of agri, so that this country can continue to do great things. We've done quite a bit. We're now number 1 in rice, number 1 in cassava, number 1 in yams, we're number 1 in maize, even though our maize is not selling because of issues of aflatoxin and mycotoxin. We're dealing with that.
The federal government will retain only a minority equity stake, while farmers' cooperatives and the private sector will acquire a substantial and controlling stake in the bank.
And in the commodity market, Nigeria tops the list of world's largest producers and largest consumers of cowpea, accounting for 46% of global cowpea production, with an estimated output of 3.41 million tons, which is the highest in the world. And in other news, more people are embracing digital marketing as a developing market strategy to boost trade, tap into the larger market, and also gain huge return on investments.
People buy and they use handset and transfer money to our account. Sometimes we will transfer money to go and buy something from Lagos and Onitsha, and they send the goods to us. So we'll do all those exchange.
These stakeholders say is a right step in the right direction, as this will as well boost revenue generation now that CBN continues to inject funds into the foreign exchange market.
The forex market in Nigeria, the exchange rate will have been widened. And then if it's widened, let's say 500, so almost all the goods that we will buy will be like double the price. and then the earning power is not increasing, so it's going to impact negatively on the citizen. So I like the initiative and the policy of the government to intervene in the forex market by injecting a forex into the market.
About $5.3 trillion being exchanged daily. So it's the economy within the currency markets are actually so large that they can pay for virtually all our unemployment issues, even in Africa.
And here is the closing figures of trades on the floor of the Nigerian Stock Exchange. With Business News, I'm Comfort Amadou.
Thank you, Comfort. Next, it's newspaper review on Good Morning Nigeria.
Right, our newspaper reviewer, Bayo Atoyobes, here with us on the studios this morning. Bayo, good morning and welcome.
Thank you, Kinsley. Good morning.
Hello,
good morning,
Bayo.
Jumai.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Nigeria.
Okay, now let's begin our review this morning by taking a look at the front page of the Daily Independent newspaper. The Daily Independent, above the nameplate, has three headlines. Let's take them. Senate again passes PIGB, that's the Petroleum Industry Governance Bill, and 6 others rejected by President Buhari. And you have two riders to that headline. That's the Senate, rejects bill to phase out petrol vehicles by 2035 and lays 2019 budget, OK's 5-year tenure for Inspector General of Police. That's page 5. $2.1 billion Malabu oil scam. Court orders arrest of Etete, Adoke, and others. 16 killed by herdsmen in Nasarawa get mass burial. That's on page 7. Now, the lead story of the Daily Independent also comes with a kicker. It says, 9th House of Reps speakership. North Central Reps shun APC, say no retreat, no surrender. Insist balance of power must be achieved for APC-led federal government. And then you have a number of headlines on the first column from the left-hand side. Buhari asks ministers to submit handover notes to Secretary to the Government of the Federation. Gunmen kidnap Delta monarch's mother and sister. Umar Aboshi fails to stop issuance of certificate of return to Nwoko. That's page 5. And court dismisses suit on sale of 9 mobile. Page 43. Also on page 43, Olowo, a great man in death, says Olubado. Now, the photograph on the front page of the Daily Independent has a caption of members of Adamawa Hunters Association protesting the alleged killing of their member by the police in Yola, and that was on Wednesday, yesterday. Now, secondly story, that's the headline below that. We are at a crossroads over subsidy removal. The story is attributed to the federal government.
I have the Nigerian Tribune above the masthead. No workable formula for subsidy removal yet. That's from the FG. And Reps speakership, APC North Central rejects zoning. Dare declares interest. Bago rejects zoning. That's on page 3. And below the masthead, we have asset declaration on Ogen knows fate today on page 35. Olowo of Owo dies at 77, page 12. Presidential poll, I am more qualified, Buhari replies Atiku, that's on page 9. And the headline speaks, FEC OK's 20 million loan for Lagos Transport Master Plan, with a rider to rehabilitate urban roads, create 8 bus corridors, 2 interchanges at Marina, Mile 2. Approves $227 million for rural electrification regional power projects, adds Oshobo Ekiti to rail line construction. And Buhari said to dissolve cabinet, that's on page 8, directs minister to submit performance reports, April 24th. Why I want second term, Kogi governor, PDP stakeholders cede ticket to Kogi East. That's on page 9. And then we have the story on the Senate passes police reform bill, fixes 5-year tenure for IGP, with riders subject appointment to its approval, sets up Nigerian Police Council to consist of president, governors, IG, PSC boss, 2-year jail time or 5 million fine for police impersonator, all draconian laws in 1943 Police Act removed. Kinsley.
Let's go over to Bayo.
Yes, let's start from the Senate. The Senate has rejected a bill for an act to phase out petrol vehicles by the year 2023. The bill sought for an electric car to be introduced. The sponsor of the bill, Senator Ben Mori Bruce, saw the common sense of objections and withdrew it. He heard that as an oil production nation, it stands against common sense to encourage electric cars because that will frustrate our ability to sell our oil. The senator has an electric car, which he says he has been using for 5 years. Another bill that also saw withdrawal and was declined by the Senate was one to accord Africans educated and financially buoyant Nigerian citizenship. This did not appeal to the common sense of the senators. Meanwhile, the Senate has passed 4 bills. They passed the redrafted Electoral Act, the Petroleum Industry Governance Bill, and 4 other bills. Among them was the Police Reform Bill, which now has put an end to the ancient law that established Nigerian police. In the new law, the Inspector General of Police is now to get a statutory appointment of a 5-year term, and it does not matter whether he's in service or retirement. And the Inspector General of Police can only be removed on the recommendation of the Nigerian Police Council. The appointment is subject to the approval of the Senate. However, any person who impersonates a police officer is subject to a 2-year jail term or a fine of 5 million. There is the running story that I think our attention should be drawn to. 2 traffic warden officers who were complicit in the killing of an officer of the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps have been remanded in Kuje prison. You recall that the incident happened along Yanya. They were charged to court for discreditable conduct and unlawful exercise of authority. Before they were charged, they were subjected to orderly room trial and they were found guilty. The autopsy report showed that the death was due to the blunt force injury. The 2 wardens are now in Kuje prison. Spokesman for the police, Frank Mba, says that the police regrets the incident, and he reiterates that the Inspector General of Police says he will not condone impunity and such acts of dishonor by officers will not be condoned.
Yeah, Bayo, thanks. I mean, for drawing attention again to that story. You recall the incident happened last month,
yes,
and there was quite some uproar, over that unfortunate development. Unfortunately, as well, the civil defense official, suffered the fate he met in the hands of the traffic wardens in the presence of his wife, yes, and children. And the question was whether you needed violence to control traffic. You recall we were discussing that at some point. Incidentally, extrajudicial killing is the topic that we're having for conversation later on in the program. Okay, well, let's return to other stories now, this time from the Punch newspaper. Above the nameplate of the Punch says domestic debt servicing gulps 1.8 trillion naira, rises by 330 billion naira. That's on page 25. NJC meets may extend Muhammad's tenure as acting CJN. That's page 3. Petrol will continue to sell for 145 naira, says NNPC. Why we haven't heard by-election in Dariye's district. That's attributed to INEC. That's page 10. 2 earpieces beside the nameplate. Bayo's already discussed one of them. Senate passes petroleum bill and 6 others. I'm far more educationally qualified than Atiku, says Buhari. Now, the lead story is one we have also reported from another paper. $2.1 billion Malabu scam. EFCC says it's working with Interpol to arrest Adoke and Etete as court orders ex-ministers and 5 others apprehension. Now, you have a number of photographs on the front page of the Punch newspaper there, and this is, it should be a source of concern to motorists, particularly in Abuja City. It says, a man, that's the caption now, a man fights with a foreign national over violation of traffic rules by the foreigner at Fema Junction close to Banex, that's in Wusetu, in Abuja, and this took place on Wednesday. Bayo, if you drive in this, of course you do drive in this city, and you can see the flagrant disregard for traffic lights, for traffic regulations. If a traffic light is red, that is when you just find some motorists, particularly either colored or uncolored taxi cabs, and you are wondering where they are from. I mean, then the traffic lights also have the timer, which is a countdown, and you see, even if the traffic light is red, at some point it will turn green. But it is when it is red that these guys just zoom past and they leave you stranded as if you are the one, who is who doesn't, have some urgency in terms of being on the road.
In fact, sometimes they create the impression that you are a nuisance on the highway because you are stopping to obey the traffic. That's right. And they are in a hurry and they maneuver and pass you and go away. And most often than not, particularly over the weekends, that is responsible for the increase in accidents.
Especially that Banex area. It's close to my house. There's always a problem there. Before the traffic light changes to green, while the other one is waiting, they just,
Yeah, where are the traffic
and they will
officers?
insult you.
Yeah, that's right. That's part of it.
Talk.
Where are the traffic officers? They should. Let them station themselves. I'm sure by the time a few arrests are made and persons are prosecuted, sanity will return. It's mind-boggling that you are obeying the traffic rules and others, of course, think that they are not bound by traffic regulations. And as you rightly observed, Bayo, that is when accidents happen. And usually it's at a perpendicular angle and straight on. Yeah. All right, let me take other headlines, Jumai, from the foot of the page of the Punch newspaper. That's below those photographs there on the front page of the Punch. Police delivered 2.5 million naira ransom to my kidnappers. That's according to a Canadian, and details can be found on pages 4 and 5. And federal government declares Friday, that's tomorrow, and Monday, Easter holidays, page 9. 15-year-old Kano housewife poisons husband. That's page 5. 15-year-old Kano housewife poisons husband. Ex-Peru president kills self to evade arrest for corruption. And asthmatic NYC member dies after parade in Bauchi. Okay.
And coming to the leadership newspaper, just below the masthead, we have PFB orders minister to submit reports of stewardship April 24th. And the headlines says, finally, Senate repeals 79-year-old Colonial Police Act. That's on page 4. OK's 5-year term for IGP repasses rejected bills. Impersonating, slapping policeman attracts 5 million fine each. And Graham Fox visit Chinese manufacturers of pharmaceutical raw materials. President Buhari committed to providing quality, affordable medicines to Nigerians, Chinese raw materials producers told. Chinese government create access to country's pharmaceutical raw materials producers. And at the bottom plate of the leadership, we have Zenith Bank records 50 billion. And NAS leadership, Shettima speaking for self. National Assembly leadership, Shettima speaks for self. Borno elders and Kogi Governor Bello declares for second term. FG panel recovers 7.2 billion from commercial bank. And FEC OK's $247 million foreign loan for electrification. Kingsley?
Yes, I think attention needs to be drawn to the development from the UTME. Many candidates are complaining they've not been able to sit the exam. Particularly, there's this report, candidates from JAM Center in the University of Ibadan campus, they were not able to sit it. Parents and candidates also complain about their inability to sit the exam in Uyo. In fact, the complaints indicate that some students say that the computer shut down 20 minutes after the exams commenced. A candidate also said they were required to report there at 1:30, but they got registered to start the exam at 7:30. By 8:30, when they got in, again, she did not succeed in logging on. Her opponents, colleagues who were in the exam hall, succeeded in logging on, but the screen went blank. Meanwhile, JAMB has given indication that so far about 1.2 candidates have written the exam. They had about 1.8 million candidates that they were expecting. JAMB also has indicated there have been issues with multiple registrations and impersonation. Some have been arrested and will be fished out. 50 professional exam writers were arrested. 40 computer-based centers were sanctioned from participating in the exercise. 30 centers were before the examination, and even in Abuja alone, they said 19 were blacklisted during the registration. 10 of them were in the Federal Capital Territory. But JAMB seems to be satisfied with what is going on, but they have a challenge about candidates who could not take the exams.
You recall yesterday when you raised this issue, today is Thursday, maybe yesterday or Tuesday, we said that, those candidates who suffered the kind of experience that you just described a while ago should be given a second chance, and that should be done promptly. I mean, it was no fault of the candidates that their screens went blank or that they had server problems and so on and so forth. These are, issues that ordinarily, should be resolved, speedily. And so if there are candidates, the issue of the professional mercenaries that are writing exams for people, those are criminal issues that can be dealt with. But the candidates who didn't have the opportunity of writing the exam when they were scheduled to write the exam, as a result, yes, of server or computer glitches, should have a second chance almost immediately. Yes. Well, we'll take our editorial now. That's editorial is from the Daily Sun newspaper, and it's at page 15. It says, curbing child and maternal deaths.
Yes, it's critical because the statistics are very scaring. And here 2,300 underage children die every day, and as many as 145 women die every day from inadequacies of health facilities. And they say the challenges are not far-fetched. Why? There is inadequacy of functioning facilities, particularly primary health care across the country. There's also shortage of human resources, and guess what? Shortage of power supply and water supply. A hospital cannot function with all these necessities. But the most challenging situation is that primary health care is at the doorstep and responsibility of local government. And we all know that a state government has actually stifled most local government. And so there is now a national coordinating center to serve as an overreach to help ensure that maternal, neonatal child care and adolescent health care that are supposed to be provided in the primary health care are enhanced and improved. The initiative is to make sure that death rates are reduced by at least by 50% by the year 2021. It is not enough to make them the health services free, but first and foremost, they should ensure that these facilities are functioning. And that is the crux of the editorial.
That's right. Bayo, we'd like to thank you for being with us. Of course, we know we read the story of the transition of the Olowo War, there's Olatoro Olagbegi. He was 77. So rest in peace. He was a senior advocate of Nigeria, by the way, and he was a lecturer also at the Nigerian Law School. He used to teach civil procedure, and he became a reader by the time he retired in 1999.
He's gone home to his ancestors.
Ancestors, as the saying goes.
Gone home to rest.
Bayo, thanks a lot for being with us.
Thank you too.
See you tomorrow, Friday. Okay, it's Good Morning Nigeria live for the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. We're taking a short break now. When we return, we shall be dealing with extrajudicial killings in Nigeria.
What's up?
His friends didn't come.
Hey, let's practice.
But you're going out.
Don't worry about me.
Nothing satisfies a mother more than seeing a child grow up. But I know as he sweats, he'll face the risk of germs which can cause skin irritation.
That's why you need the new best ever Dettol Cool. Its new advanced formulation with extra menthol protects from up to 100 illness-causing germs and gives your family icy cool freshness.
Growing up needs Dettol protection.
A new edition
edition of TV Guide is out, with special focus on the role of the media in election coverage. Exclusive on the National Broadcasting Commission, its mandate as the sole regulator of Nigerian media. Dr. Thomas Damaden and Ishak Modibo Kawu. Now, this edition also features the king of stand-up comedy in Nigeria, Ali Baba. NTA standards to be ready for election transmission after decades of abandonment. Find out from the DG transactional elections in our political space. An evil wind that blows no good. DG, National Orientation Agency caution. TV Guide, your indispensable companion, x-rays the impact of social media on electioneering process as electorates present their expectations from incoming government. Meet some TV professionals behind the screen and other inspiring stories in sports, entertainment, and lots more. Grab a copy at the vendor near you or NTA stations nationwide. TV Guide, your indispensable companion.
You are watching Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA. We now take a backgrounder on to set the tone for our discussion on addressing extrajudicial killings. Here's a report by Aisha Uba Ali.
Security agencies are at the forefront of protection of lives and property, as well as ensuring the enforcement of law and order in society. These officials, comprising of the police and other paramilitary officers, are saddled with the responsibility of protecting citizens. But recent occurrences are not only disturbing but fly in the face of the statutory provisions of the law. The viral videos of shootings carried out by men in uniform has continued to generate concerns and a major talking in social conversations. Observers believe these armed personnel, especially the police, need serious training and capacity building on the use of firearms, especially with the rising cases of abuse. The actions of these officers, from all indications, have sowed seeds of doubt in the minds of Nigerians, begging the question of the police truly being a friend, as their slogans suggest. While Nigerians are grappling with the incidents of kidnapping and banditry, one expects that the police will be more proactive in channeling its energy towards ridding the society of these bad eggs and vices rather than being advised themselves, as the narrative seems to suggest. Although those in authority in the police force have taken responsibility for the overzealousness of the men, they have also condemned these actions in bold statements. With many of these established cases not prosecuted in the past, the Inspector General of Police in his statement says, henceforth, any officer found culpable after investigation will face the wrath of the law.
Regaining a good relationship and trust with the public must be cultivated, developed, and earned.
Observers are of the view that with the incident, the police force should adopt alternative measures in combating crimes and social vices rather than arming them with firearms that could pose danger to law-abiding citizens. This has also prompted a legislative framework, as Senate has passed a bill seeking to amend the Police Act. Analysts on Good Morning Nigeria today will be taking a critical look of the issue and how it can be checked.
All right, thank you very much, Aisha, for that background. Now we have guests with us here in the Abuja studios as well as at our network centers. First, let's welcome the first Public Relations Officer, Deputy Commissioner of Police, Frank Umba. Right, DCP Umba, pleasure to have you with us on the program.
Thank you and good morning, Nigerians.
Also here with us is the Executive Director of Clean Foundation that's is involved in justice sector reform, Dr. Benson Olugbo. Dr. Olugbo, pleasure to have you with us on the program.
Thank you for having me.
And also here with us, regular guest on Good Morning Nigeria, Dr. Law Mefo is a forensic and social psychologist. Law?
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Equally joining us from our Kaduna studio is Yunus Ostaz Osman, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. It's a pleasure to have you on Good Morning Nigeria. National Chairman, Police Community Relations Committee, PCRC, joins us from Sokoto. It's good to have you on Good Morning Nigeria. So let's begin with Yunus Ustaz in Kaduna. Can you give us a definition of what extrajudicial killing is?
Judicial punishment is punishing someone without an order of court, without trial by a competent court of jurisdiction. This is because normally it is extrajudicial punishments that lead to extrajudicial killings. Then we come to extrajudicial killing. Just like I have said, extrajudicial killing is the killing of a human being without an order of a competent court of law, without a trial and conviction by a competent court of law. Any other method of killing is extrajudicial. Any other type of killing, either allowed by your commander-in-chief or anything without trial by a court of law, is extrajudicial killing, illegal and unconstitutional. That is the definition.
All right, stay with you, learned Senior Advocate Yunus Ustaz. Our focus, of course, this morning is on extrajudicial killing involving law enforcement officers. But in terms of explaining to our viewers, when you say the unlawful taking of life without without exhausting the normal judicial process, would that also include lynching, as we find in some parts of the country?
Of course, like I've just said, anything, any type of killing without the permission of a court of law is extrajudicial and not unlawful, but is illegal. Illegal in the sense that it is totally forbidden and you are supposed to have the same punishment meted on you if you do that. It is unfortunate that extrajudicial killings in Nigeria today are not only done by the overzealous security agencies, but even people using ethnicity or misinterpreting religion and the rest of them. And it's most unfortunate. But they should know that if you do so, if you kill somebody, the punishment is that you yourself should be killed.
All right. You say that the person who has carried out an extrajudicial killing should be killed would mean that you have to go through the due process of law. That's the presumption. Okay, well, thank you very much, Senior Advocate. We'll return to you now at Kaduna Studios. Let's come back to Abuja Studios here. We earlier introduced the Executive Director of Clean Foundation. How widespread is extrajudicial killing? But in this case, let's narrow it down to the law enforcement agency.
It is widespread. It is very bad. And in 2002, Clean Foundation carried a report on extrajudicial killing in Nigeria, and it showed high level of extrajudicial killing cutting across all sectors of the society, all geographical locations of the society. And there was a high level of involvement, unfortunately, of security agencies whose responsibility actually is to protect the life and properties of Nigerians. So that is 2002. Even before 2002, there have been cases. I'm just saying the one we did. And of course, also, if you look at what is happening recently, if let's just leave then and just come even this April. Within this month of April, between March and April, there have been recorded cases of extrajudicial killings, even in Abuja here. Of course, I heard you mention the officer. Even in Lagos also, you know Kolade Johnson, you know the lady and the young man who had gone to a nightclub, and other ones. Apart from those ones that are actually in the public domain, there are several hundreds, if not even thousands, that are not in the public domain. Last year, we had a public hearing with the National Human Rights Commission. Some of those cases dated back to 2015 of torture, extrajudicial killing of different shapes and sizes. And unfortunately, during those public hearings, even the people who did the complaints were afraid to come to the commission to report. Those who came with lawyers, and some of them who came actually requested for protection before they could come to give their evidence, because they were afraid that after giving their evidence, what happened to their family members may also happen to them. So it is a really big issue. It is something that we really need to look into. And even as we say it also, I think it's something we must say that I have to commend the National Assembly for passing the reform bill for the police, which, of course, you rightly pointed out, has been with us since 1943. One must also commend the current Inspector General of Police. He has started on the right direction to right some of the wrongs we have noticed in terms of impunity in issues of extrajudicial killings. But it is still morning in the day, and there's a lot of work actually that needs to be done for us to get to the root of why we have extrajudicial killing, as if it's a normal thing. It's not normal, really. And I must confess that Nigerians will need to have a rethink of our police force and what we want our police force to do. And why is it that anytime you see a security man, you are scared of your life instead of actually being happy that somebody has come to protect you? There has to be a mind change somehow. I'm not sure where the problem is, but to answer your question, the issue of extrajudicial killing in Nigeria is something that is very, very, very bad.
Okay, still with you, Dr. Benson. The police reform bill has just been passed.
Yes, by the Senate.
Yes, and there's something there that just sort of drew my attention. That's impersonation and slapping a policeman. You have a 5 million naira fine. So what happens? How is the common man on the street protected from the brutality and extrajudicial killing on the streets of Nigeria?
You see, we also have to take into consideration the law protects everybody. The law protects Nigerians. The law protects service members. One must also concede that security agencies and also police officers have actually also been victims of extrajudicial killing, unfortunately. There have been instances where police officers who are on official duty have actually been lynched or can killed extrajudicially. Or in the instance where somebody was killed and then Nigerians actually gathered together and lynched the police officer without going through the process of law. Two wrongs can never make a right. And it's also something that one really needs to watch, where security agencies, they are Nigerians. They are protected by the Constitution. They are protected by Chapter 4, which talks about respect for human dignity and the rest of it. For me, it is a crime, actually, for you to slap a police officer who is on official duty, because his responsibility, firstmost, is to preserve law and order. And he has been given that right, if you can call it, to do that job by the government. So if you are slapping a police officer, you're actually slapping the government. In fact, you are slapping the Inspector General of Police. And to an extent, you are slapping the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, because they all derive their responsibilities from the 1999 Constitution. So it is a crime for me, actually. And I think, to an extent, that law tries to bring the fact that police officers also have human rights. They should be respected. We should accord them that human dignity that they deserve as individuals who are putting their lives on the line to protect Nigerians. And I think we should give them that respect.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Benson Olugbo. We'll return to you in the course of the conversation. Let's bring in now the First Public Relations Officer, DCP Frank Umba. Deputy Commissioner of Police, of course, you are familiar with the fairly regular reports these days about the involvement of members of the police force in extrajudicial killing. But in general, we know that some other security agents and agencies have also been involved. But why the rush, as it were, of extrajudicial killings by your men and officers?
First of all, let me admit the fact that indeed there are clear cases of extrajudicial killings that have taken place, not just by members of the force, not just by police officers and members of other law enforcement agencies, but also on the reverse, some extrajudicial killings were also perpetrated by members of the public, sometimes with the security agents being targets and sometimes with other citizens also being the target. The truth really is, for us to begin to deal with this problem, we must actually admit the fact that they exist. If we live in self-denial, we will never be able to tackle them. And that's the approach of the current leadership of the Nigerian police force. Our position is simple and clear. Police officers are primarily recruited, trained, equipped, paid with public funds, and charged with the core responsibility of protecting lives and property. Therefore, it is antithetical, clearly a paradox, an aberration for these same police officers who are charged with the responsibility of protecting life to actually take life. And that's why when extrajudicial killings are perpetrated by police officers, it resonates very much clearly and deeper than when they are perpetrated by even other law enforcement agents or by members of the public. And so we understand that. Our approach is to tackle this problem headlong. First of all, the Inspector General of Police have come out very strongly to say we must put an end to this impunity. And what's the way forward? The first thing we do is to make sure that whenever it occurs, we do not make any pretense about it. We do not make any effort for cover-up. We'll identify the police officer, isolate him, and take away the rotten apple from the pack of the apples. We will ensure that the police officer is dealt with internally, and if found culpable, dismissed, publicly named and shamed, and prosecuted in a conventional court of law. We are also going forward to deepen and expand our trainings. We believe that one way we can do it is to continue the frequency, increase the frequency, the intensity, and the depth of the trainings we are giving. Expand our curriculum, particularly in the areas of respect for human rights, interpersonal relationship, emotional intelligence, and proficiency in the use of weapons. We are also looking at increasing a culture of peer review. We understand that by our very nature and by the very nature of the officers within the law enforcement community generally, esprit de corps is a top philosophy. But we want going forward to continue to encourage our colleagues that indeed the good officers must speak out when anyone within their ranks is doing an ill. Therefore, peer review will be promoted so that police officers, especially those that falls within the same rank bracket, are able to call their colleagues to question. In his trip to Lagos, the IGP even expanded this further by saying that line officers, line supervisors, including DPOs and area commanders, will be held vicariously liable if they fail to rein on their subordinates, if they fail to exert adequate supervision of their subordinates. And we are also looking at our equipment, our working tools. You will agree with me that the world is advancing, the world is moving forward technologically and scientifically. We believe, and very strongly so, that if we have the right funding, the right tools, the right equipment, we will certainly be able to reduce the frequency of the use of firearms. For instance, if we've got enough rubber bullets, if we've got enough stun guns, if we've got enough tasers, we'll be able to do away or reduce to the barest minimum the resort to AK-47 and other kind of lethal weapons during encounters with members of the public.
All right, DCP Frank Ubah, thank you very much. We will return again, of course, to you. Just before we bring in Law Mefo, who is a psychologist in our midst, I would like us to go over to our Sokoto Network Center, where we will introduce Dr. Farouk Abdullahi Meyama. Dr. Meyama is the National Chairman, Police Community Relations Committee. Dr. Meyama, well, we are here seated talking about extrajudicial killings. Almost historically, if you were to go back 40 years or so, this has been a problem with us. I'm sure you recall what happened in 1981 in Lagos when mobile police officers shot dead Dele Udo, who was an athlete, somewhere around Surulere, and that caused quite some uproar. And of course, in the Second Republic, some members of the police force had the notoriety of being referred to as kill and go. And in recent years, of course, you have had a number of incidents involving members of the police force, plus, of course, as we have also identified through the guests, other law enforcement agencies that are also involved in this extrajudicial killing. Why has this persisted? What has gone wrong with police-community relations?
Thank you very much. First and foremost, I think we all know that the duty of a state is to protect life and properties. And the police were trained, equipped, and fed by the public in order to ensure the protection of life and properties. And that is why the Nigeria Police Force, since 1984, established the Police Community Relations Committee. First and foremost, the duty of the Police Community Relations Committee is to protect the interests of members of the general public in their interactions and relationship with personnel of the Nigeria Police Force. And since that time, the PCRC has been trying its very best to, one, interact with the police at all levels, right from divisional level, up to state, up to zonal level, up to national levels, for the purpose of, one, enlightening members of the general public on their duties and responsibilities in relationship with members of the Nigeria Police Force. And over time, there has been some improvement, except quite recently. In the past, we hardly come to know anything about extrajudicial killing until quite very recently. Unfortunately, extrajudicial killings is not only peculiar to Nigeria. In the United States, for instance, just in 2017 alone, about 903 persons were extrajudicially killed. And 300 of them, according to media report, were on the run, trying to run away from the police bullets. That was in the US, one of the most advanced countries and one of the most trained police officers they have in that country. In Nigeria, what we have done is to try to enlighten members of the general public that they have to respect the law. Respecting the law implies that they should respect the police on duty. Some of us, behave in kind of challenge to the police. You don't challenge a person with the gun, whether in uniform or out of uniform. And the unfortunate thing is, this is not only peculiar to the police alone, but it affects all security agencies. And the most important thing is to enlighten members of the general public. Don't provoke the police, don't threaten the police, and don't also behave in a form of big mandate to the police when they are on duty. If there is any attack or threats on your person against you by any member of the police force or any member of the security agencies, there are quite many ways of redress. One, you can, if he insists on arresting you to the station, follow him or her to the station. After that, if you know that you are on your right, you have every room to go and report to their senior officers. The second one is to also interact with members of the Nigeria Police Force through our various forums at divisional, state, zonal, and national levels in form of conferences, workshops, and whatever to ensure that members of the police interact with members of the general public in order to improve and also promote cordial working relationship between members of the general public and the police. Quite recently, we plan to have another what we call town hall meeting with the IGP himself and chairman and other officers of the PCRC from all the states across the country and also from all the zones across the country of the Police Community Relations Committee. This is to ensure that they know the Riot Act and they also interact with the highest authority of the police in Nigeria so that when they go back, they will tell them this is what we learned. And also they will tell the IGP what they left behind and what they can do to improve the situation and what the IGP can do to improve the situation. It is very good that he has started very well. What even led to increase of this spate of extrajudicial killing was because of impunity of the past. In the past, this any extrajudicial killing by any member of the security agencies is covered off. But I am happy now the President IGP has started very well and he has been doing excellent in trying to apprehend perpetrators of this extrajudicial killing. And we are always ready and willing to mobilize members of the general public in order to ensure that they report these cases. Because the worst part of it is people are often affected with these cases of extrajudicial killing, but because of the impunity of the past, they don't report. And their failure to report encourage these perpetrators to do it. Another thing that has been neglected, which also led to this spate of increase in this extrajudicial killing, is failure of the police to check drunken police officers. A person who is to be deployed to his duty force should be checked whether he is drunk or not drunk. In the past, it is often done. But nowadays, they don't even have the equipment to check whether a person is drunk before he is posted to his duty post. And that is why it is highly appreciable of members of the National Assembly for passing Police Trust Fund. Because if it is endorsed, hopefully we hope the President will also endorse it, that Police Trust Fund will help in providing the police with the required funds to improve their performance, to equip themselves very well, and also even provide the police officers with the required remunerations to do their job.
Still with you, Dr. Farouk Abdullahi. I would like to ask you this question. How much is a problem, this phenomenon we have, these extrajudicial killings, and how do Nigerians contribute to it?
Well, actually, it is increasing, as I said initially, and increasing not only in Nigeria alone, but in Asia, in Europe, and even in the United States. The unfortunate thing is members of the general public at times provoke police officers or even security agencies through not complying with lawful directives. If you don't comply with lawful directives and the person is empowered to arrest you, and if you resist, that is why they are Nigeria Police Force. So they will definitely use force to arrest. And if you resist that arrest, you know what is to come, is to happen to you. That is one. Two, the police themselves, as I said, need to be controlled before they are posted to their duty post. They have to know that the senior officers have checked them for drunkenness. I personally, at one time, met a drunkard mobile police officer on roadblock. I didn't argue with him. He stopped me. He went to check my boot. He checked my boot. I moved. I went and called the commissioner of police and informed him. And he sent people to check, and he confirmed, and immediately withdrew that officer. So even members of general public has a responsibility when they notice something abnormal with a police officer, report to his immediate superior officer, and something will be done. And even if you don't want to waste your time reporting, call the nearest PCRC member in your community, because we have members of the PCRC at all levels in all communities that you can always call and inform them, and they will not hesitate to inform the senior police officers to take care of that. Then another thing is there is cases of corruption. Corruption is a very, very fundamental cause of this. Monies meant for taking care of the police are often not released on time. We have had the IGP when he told us publicly that the budget...
All right, Farouk Abdullahi Mayama, we'll return to you at Sokoto Network Center. Now, let's come to our Abuja studios here and bring in Dr. Lome, who is a forensic and social psychologist. Tell us something from your perspective. What psychology is at work here in extrajudicial killings that do not appear to abate in Nigeria?
It's a very disturbing trend, whether we like it or not. It's on the increase also. And whether or not it's a Nigerian thing is not the issue here. We are talking about our case. And we have problem of selection. You know, it's not every citizen that should be a policeman. That's the beginning of the problem. I don't know the selection process employed by the Nigerian police. There are psychological tools of identifying those who are suitable for the kind of job. Every job has personality dispositions of the people who should fill into it. I don't know. That is one level. Then the level of training. There are psychological elements that must be incorporated in the training. Anger management, for example. The issue of resilience is a personality trait. It's not everybody that has it. The slightest provocation, you see an officer resort to the use of the weapon. Use of the gun is the last resort. And it is not true that when a citizen resists arrest, he should be shot. It's not true. There is what you call rules of engagement. And the officer that is shooting an unarmed person, what defense does he have? The policeman can shoot to kill only on one condition, that his own life is at stake. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. That's the only condition. Otherwise, even if the person is on the run, you can shoot to demobilize, right? You have areas you can shoot and the person, will be incapacitated to be able to answer to whatever he has done, even if the individual has committed murder. It's not a license for the policeman to kill. Having said that, the point I'm trying to make is that we have, the problem is quite enormous and it's holistic. And it's good that the IGP, the acting IGP, is bringing in some reforms that will reach out to some of these roots. The National Assembly is only now responding to the obnoxious contents of the Police Act passed as at 1943. One of the major problems of the Nigerian police force, as we have it now, it is its history, the colonial history. Colonial Britain formed the police to repress Nigerians. And we inherited it like that without modification. That is why we are only modifying some of the provisions we consider obnoxious that date back to 1943. You can understand that. Now, the point I'm trying to bring out here is this. We haven't quite really done enough to have a system we can call Nigeria Police. Even the name is wrong. Must the word force be used? The police is not a force. It's not supposed to be a force. Even if it is a force, it should not be so apparent. You call it Nigeria Police Force? Yes, that's it. So, even in name, there is a correlation between behavior and name. What stops us from just having Nigeria Police?
Former President Olusegun Obasanjo tried to do that, and constitutional purists raised the point that he could not suo motu or unilaterally alter the provisions of the Constitution.
Correct. So you amend the Constitution to expunge that word force. I tell you why. You see, police is not only the modern security agency. Even the army is a derivative of the police. It's shot out from the police and all others. So everything begins and ends with the police force in terms of security architecture of any country. Unless we get the police right, we haven't started building a society. Because law enforcement is aimed at entrenching law and order. There should be a system of accountability. Somebody has to be alive to even answer to his crimes. Do you understand what I'm saying? Nobody has right to take life. The judge has to pronounce you guilty before that can happen. So if you want to really get this done, my first take is that you take away that word first, because the police is the buffer between all the security agencies and the civil society. They are, in fact, outside Nigeria, especially in Europe, if you travel, the greatest social asset the citizens have is the police. They will tell you, I will call the police. And it means so much to them. Can a Nigerian say that? That's a problem. If we cannot appropriate our own police as our own major, social asset that can give us protection, give us happiness, give us hope, you should run to a policeman for protection. The police should see itself as an extension of the society. Their job is not only, is not only security related, it's also moral. The police should, the issue of preventive security, issue of intelligence, means that the police will have to rely on the public. But if you kill at will, psychologically, you are bringing in the element of fear. The people, rather than, see you as a friend, see you as a potential problem. Do you understand that? And some people who have tried to help the police in a provision of information, intelligence, and all that, have actually had problems. This in itself is another problem, another issue that has to be taken care of by the force itself. Finally, it's also important to understand that apart from the fact that the police is under-motivated, underpaid, under-trained, they are also undermanned. By that I mean, you see, we are approximately 200 million people, and we are policed by less than 500,000. That is inadequate, grossly inadequate. And that makes it even more imperative that the police will have to extend its capacity by, involving the public in what they are doing. That way, you are not paying for intelligence. That way, the people are there working for you because you are there for them. It's not what we have. So we need to get back to the drawing board. Much of what has happened so far are palliatives. We need to do much more. We have to reject the police fundamentally.
Well, Lord Mefol, thank you very much. Earlier, you talked about the fact that for recruitment purposes, there ought to be a psychological checklist for persons, who are coming into the police. But I want to return to my original question for you to try to explain the psychology behind extrajudicial killings. Let's try to contextualize it as follows.
Yeah.
The two reported cases in recent times. Kyle Johnson was at a football viewing center when that unfortunate incident occurred. One of the policemen was said to have threatened that he will kill somebody today. So that's one. He said, I will kill somebody today, and he ended up killing somebody.
Yeah.
Last weekend, when the incident happened at Ajegunle, the inspector, who was part of the team, after the killing of the 20-year-old girl, took to his heels. So what is the psychology at play in some of these instances?
It's basic here. Let me tell you, the man you see out there that appears so normal may not be normal. That is why we talked about psychological evaluation of those you bring in. And even on the job itself, you can develop some mental problems. You have mental disorders. Some of them are so extreme. And those that are mild, incipient, when they are beginning, you may not really notice. You see, you need to, not apart from taking into consideration the issue of evaluation of those who come in, on the job itself, police job is combative and judgmental, is stress-ridden. And at the background of all, mental disorders is stress. That's a problem. So is there a mechanism in place to really, constantly reevaluate, even those who were okay at the point they came in? There should be a periodic evaluation. You need to constantly evaluate. Nigerian police force must work with the Nigerian psychologists. They can help them free of charge to do some of these things. Every 2-3 years, we need to know whether it's still the same person we recruited 3 years ago that we still have. Because on the job, a lot can happen. Their job is so stressful. Some don't sleep for days. Some are under threat. Because what we are saying, they have an advantage because they are holding arms, right? But they too are under threat. Because Nigerians are reacting to these issues by taking the battle to the police itself also. So they are under threat, they worry, they have families to run and all that. And the pressure is not guaranteeing that they can return home. At the end of the day, it's a work. These are realities that must be taken care of professionally. It's not just a matter of, waiting for that to happen. Then you try the policeman and dismiss him. That is not enough. That will not bring back the life that was lost. What is important here, what the police must think seriously about is prevention. We need to make sure that the officer doesn't get stressed to the point where he will have to fall back on the gun. The use of the firearm by the police can be compensatory in nature. Sometimes it has to do with personal threats. That's what I'm saying, trying to even protect himself. Sometimes it is a kind of cry for maternal help. It's an officer who needs help, and the help is not forthcoming. Even the person to give the help doesn't know that the officer needs help. The officer himself may not even know that he needs help. So he needs to undergo evaluation at the point of entry and periodically to ensure that we still have the same person. Then you need to teach anger management. You need to teach it. There must be ways there are psychological ways of teaching anger management within the force itself. And once you constantly do that, then you get, better, modified behaviors that will be more in line with what you call democratic policing. All these things are lacking at the moment. We are still running the police as a force. Nigeria police shouldn't be a force. The officers and men must know that they don't need a gun. And a general said that the war he believes he wins is the war he wins without firing a shot. You don't need to use the gun. The DCP embassy it here also, that they want, to be equipped to the point where you may not even need the gun. That's the point. They don't need a gun. But that is what they have. Instead of being the last line of their defense, it is the first line of defense. Right. So they constantly fall on it.
Okay, Doctor, thank you so much, Dr. Low. Before I'll be going now to the DCP Frank Uba response to questions that has been raised by respondents in the studio now.
First of all, let me say that a whole lot of the things that doctor have said, I agree with quite a whole lot of them. However, it boils down again to the fundamental issues of reforms and funding. I mean, even as we aspire to equip our departments, the police, the Nigeria police, to a point where we may not have to resort to the use of gun at the slightest provocation, it will need to be funded appropriately for us to be able to do that. We can't do that. We can't do that with our bare hands. The Inspector General of Police, no matter how noble his intentions might be, will need the backing of the relevant government organs and agencies to be able to actually execute those missions. So it comes down to funding. It comes down to the support. And that's why someone said, and I totally agree, that every community, every nation, every country gets the kind of police it deserves. And so Nigerians and Nigeria must work with us to build the kind of police that all of us will be proud of. I'm talking about extrajudicial killings. I mean, it is actually a whole big challenge. And for us to tackle it, we must actually look at it holistically. The policeman on the street oftentimes sees himself as a victim of a larger conspiracy. He sees himself as a victim of oppression, while the citizens equally see the policeman as a tool of oppression. As a police officer, I have seen single murders of police officers. I've seen double murders, triple murders. I've seen police officers molested, slapped, beaten, their heads smashed. And in one of the extreme cases, about 2013, for example, during the Ombase crisis, over 100 police officers were murdered in cold blood. That was extrajudicial killing taken to the highest and the most horrendous level. And so, as much as we continue to do everything we can to rein on our officers and ensure that we carry out deep and far-reaching reforms, it is also important that every facet of our national life, we all come together and work towards actually addressing those other factors that also precipitate the unlawful killing of law enforcement agencies. I've seen soldiers killed on the line of duties for nothing, without provocation. I've seen our colleagues from the customs murdered by smugglers. And so it is a huge problem. We on our part have actually accepted that it's a challenge here. We can't run away from it. The same way we take glory when one police officer had a cell, the same way we all in the police force celebrated Chioma Ajunwa when he won the Olympic gold, the same way we celebrate Samuel Peters when he won the World Boxing champion, the same way we celebrate when one single police officer has distinguished himself doing something wonderfully well, the same way as police leaders and managers, the same way we will come down and take responsibility and try to fix the problem where one of us is bringing shame and infamy to us all. And that's the way to go. On the issue of recruitment, again, if the police force, if the people and the government of Nigeria, if we are able to come together and make the Nigerian police so attractive, the conditions of service so attractive, it will be easier for us to even attract the creme de la creme of Nigerian youths. The truth today is, with the pay package of the police officer, the total emoluments, the condition of service, we struggle to get certain categories of persons. Of course, anytime you announce recruitment, there are lots of millions of Nigerians scrambling to come in. But we need, and we are, doing everything possible to go through this, screen as much as possible, and come out with the very best amongst those who are applying. But again, in the police, you don't recruit by compulsion. People must apply willingly. And the better the condition of service, the better the quality of the persons that will be applying.
All right. DCP Frank Ubah, thank you very much for the points that you have raised. Just before we bring in Yunus Ustaz Usman, again, for the benefit of some of our viewers, DCP Ubah was talking about Chioma Ajunwa. Chioma Ajunwa, a police officer, was the first Nigerian to win an individual Olympic gold medal, and that was at the Atlanta Games in 1996. We also had Guatemala Sunday Bada, who of course is late now. The police, they used to have a football team, Sonny Oyarikwa, but there was a style then that was called police football, you know, kick and follow. I'm not sure that would have well, I'm not sure that would have availed you now if you were playing against Ajax or Tottenham or Barcelona or Liverpool.
Man U.
No, Man U, they were sent packing. They're back to the Premier League. Okay, let's return to our Kaduna Network Center. Yunus Ustaz Usman. Back to you, Leonard Senior Advocate. There are a number of issues on the table. We all encounter members of the law enforcement agents, in our daily lives, whether you see them on the beat or otherwise, and we have concerns. A number of issues have been raised here. What is it that, in your opinion, can be done to reduce significantly the currently high incidence of extrajudicial killings?
Thank you very much. Like the psychologists has said, law method. You see, you don't recruit everybody into the force. This issue of killings always come out because if you look at it deeply, anybody who is humane, anybody who knows the value of human life will not be trigger happy. So it all starts from the recruitment. You must ensure, we are few, but we have few policemen. He said 500 to 2 million. That doesn't mean that we should employ people who are trigger happy to be our policemen, even if they are 2 and have humane tendencies. Then it is better to do with a few than the many who will be threats to us. Because really speaking, today Nigeria police force is not your friend, whether you like it or not. Then, apart from this recruitment, let us ensure that the police people who are recruited are really, really educated. Education matters a lot. Let me tell you this. Somebody who has gone through the university education, maybe instead of 3 square meals a day, he was having 1, and the rest of them, knows how valuable human life is. Such a person cannot easily take human life. But somebody who only finished primary school and so did not go through all these rigors of training, did not compete with others in school and so on, may not have real value for human life. For example, see what happened in Benin recently at the 3rd junction. One David Okonika. He came out from his vehicle. They demanded 100 naira. He said he had only 50 naira and 1,000. And that the police would assure him that if he gave them 1,000, this would return 900 to him. He was just dragged off his motorcycle, thrown onto the major road, and was crushed by a trailer. You see, if those police people were really educated, if they had gone through all the sufferings in school and so on, would they have been able to do that without having human feelings? I don't think so. Then that takes me to Dr. Ablai in Sokoto, who said when we go there, we'll meet police people, we should not provoke them. Yes, of course you don't. But then the law does not allow the policeman to even shoot anybody who has provoked him. Even if it is an armed robber and he's trying to escape, you don't shoot him in the head. Shoot him in the legs where you can get him arrested. Even if a taxi driver refuses to stop, the law does not permit you to shoot into the car. You shoot at the tires. But the way we do things now is most unfortunate. The training will have to be properly looked into. Get people who are really, really, look, there's no job now. Many people are willing to do this so that you don't need to take the many whom you think will protect us, but whom you are not sure of their character, whose character anti-human into the police force. It will not help us. Then the doctor from Sokoto, again, I'm sorry, said that the policeman has the arm, so if you threaten somebody with the arm, Was he giving the arm to shoot you? He was giving the arm to protect you. So with humility, that cannot be an excuse at all. And then the use of this firearm, the DCP said it should be the last line you can fall back to. Yes, it is true. The rubber bullets and the rest of them are cheaper than the life bullets. So don't give policemen life bullets, particularly those who are in our cities. You don't give them life bullets. It's not the issue of cost. If it is cost, life bullets are more costly. Please, we should know that human life is not chicken life. Even if it is chicken life, you have no right to kill a chicken that does not belong to you or that you don't need to use for food. I think we should have passed this stage since in this country. But it's most unfortunate.
Thank you very much, our learned advocate. I now go to Dr. Farouk Abdullahi Meyama. He has raised some pertinent questions on how the police should use weapons. And your committee is in charge of relations between the police and the citizens. So what have you been doing to create awareness on the need for better relations between the police and the citizens so they don't use arms to arrest or kill a citizen?
Yes, as I said, we have had so many interactions with the police. But to go back to the question of training and education, we don't recruit primary school leavers nowadays. That is one. Two, there is more increased number of educated police officers these days than in the past. But unfortunately, there is no correlation between increase in education and the number of incidents we are witnessing today. We have now even a whole university of police academy training police officers with university degrees. We have so many police training institutions across the country training police officers who are secondary school leavers. They only enroll secondary school leavers these days. So there is no correlations between the more educated an individual is, the more crime he committed. In fact, some of those crimes were being committed by the educated elites. So coming back to the relationship between members of the general public and the police officers, the police introduced Police Community Relations Committee for the purpose of enhancing police public interactions. And they also recently introduced community policing. Community policing is the key to improvement and enhancement of police community relations across the country. The unfortunate thing is community policing has not been given the desired, status and respect it deserves. It has only been, given payslip in the past. We are praying that the present IGP will address the issue of community policing, because community policing entails involvement of all sectors, traditional rulers, religious groups, other security stakeholders at all levels. In the past, the PCRC even proposed a position paper on how to implement community policing at all levels. You don't implement community policing in Abuja from the force headquarters. You implement community policing at the community levels. And we made a case for the implementation of that community policing so that all security stakeholders at the community, all community leaders within the community, all religious groups within the community, all traditional rulers within the community will form the community policing committee at the community level.
All right. Thank you very much, Farouk Abdullahi. And indeed, gentlemen, in our studios here in Abuja, as well as our Kaduna Network Center, we're taking a short break now. When we return, we'll take the tweets and then, of course, get the closing comments from our guests.
A new edition of TV Guide is out with special focus on the role of the media in election coverage. Exclusive on the National Broadcasting Commission, its mandate as the sole regulator of Nigerian media. Dr. Thomas Daba then and Ishak Modibo Kawu now. This edition also features the king of stand-up comedy in Nigeria, Ali Baba. MTA standards to be ready for election transmission after decades of abandonment. Find out from the DG transactional elections in our political space, an evil wind that blows no good. DG, National Orientation Agency caution. TV Guide, your indispensable companion, x-rays the impact of social media on electioneering process as electorates present their expectations from incoming government. Meet some TV professionals behind the screen and other inspiring stories in sports, entertainment, and lots more. Grab a copy at the vendor near you or NTA stations nationwide. TV Guide, your indispensable companion.
Hold it! Me! I don't wash my hand from oil bunkering.
General, what you going to yarn? What did the yarn say? I don't understand though.
Because they spoil our water and our environment. And they cause our people serious harm. Militants is said, you know good. Me! I not do again sound. Because why? Change begins with me.
This message is brought to you by the National Orientation Agency in conjunction with the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
All right, welcome back and still good morning, Nigeria, on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. As we said before, we went on that short break. We have a number of tweets. We'll go through them now and then return to our guest. Law Alpha C has this. It says, adequate professional training and reasonable welfare packages for security agents who have embarked on their task is one that should be considered by the government. For it sounds strange for them to kill citizens they swore to protect.
And Daddy G.O. tweets, this is largely perpetrated by men of the Nigerian police force. It is unfortunate that some aberrant police officers are trigger-happy despite repeated warnings and overtures by the authority. One of the reasons for this is poor welfare package for the police force. Again, one other reason that may have been responsible for this menace is a lack of adequate training for the security personnel. In many cases, these officers don't possess the educational wherewithal, the mental capacity and temperament to deal with the public. No constant engagement.
Now, Titus Mondenok has this tweet. I think the President, acting Inspector General of Police, is taking the bull by the horns by checkmating the menace of extrajudicial killing by some of the bad cops.
Olale Kamaruddin tweets, extrajudicial killing is a grave abuse of rule of law and human dignity, which are the core of fundamental human rights. It should be strongly condemned and denied in any sane society, especially where democratic governance is practiced, such as Nigeria.
Festus Akimboyewa tweets, now the rate at which Nigerians are being killed in police custody and in police operations by trigger-happy officers is worrisome. Sad that the victims of these extrajudicial killings are mostly young people. All our armed current policemen should undergo compulsory psychological tests.
And Daily Jock Solomon tweets, agents in Nigeria must intensify by government and citizens. This is because freedom to life of Nigerians is fundamental, constitutional and consistent with Nigeria's human rights treaty obligations. Nigerians say no to extrajudicial killings. This madness must stop.
And this is coming from Mike Ayankwa. He tweets, now extrajudicial killings are certainly a crime against the people. And kudos to the Nigerian Television Authority for bringing such an important topic to the public domain, since the menace has been on the increase, especially this year. We welcome the trial of some security personnel involved in these activities.
And Raji Afis Abidemi tweets, good morning, Nigeria, on issue of extrajudicial killing in Nigeria. I think federal government needs to put more efforts concerning training of our uniform officers, and the security agencies need to be friendly with the citizens of this country so that they'll be able to get information from them.
All right, this is Mutana Farouk. It says, why would a rational human being terminate a life that he cannot revive? Everyone always focuses on the security agents in this regard, but what about the criminals?
And Sani Michael Omokoji tweets, IG is decrying the rate of extrajudicial killing by some of his men is not enough. Thus, he should match his words with action, as culprits must be used as scapegoats to serve as deterrent to others. He should equally embark on holistic training and retraining of his men.
Akeju Olagbaju tweets, now extrajudicial killing is a violation of human rights and it's a case of being guilty before trial.
And First News Akimboyewa tweets, many Nigerians abroad are afraid to visit Nigeria with their children. The few bad eggs in our police have made the entire police force to appear fiendish and gaulish. Sad. The police must work hard to clean up its battered image.
This is coming from Arisha Monde. As we are discussing extrajudicial killings, we should also remind our citizens of their duty to respect a security officer.
And Bawo Omegbemi tweets, I think the government should focus on the education of policemen. Well-equipped police academies should be provided. Also, the qualification for requirements should be upgraded. Kudos, NTA GMN crew. God bless Nigeria.
And this is coming from Shuaibu Alkali. Extrajudicial killing cannot be stopped until the police and judiciary perform their duties as they ought to be.
And our last tweet for today, I hope, Saleh Issa says, sir, please, is DSP Frank aware or see the news headlines in some dailies of today that police helped to take ransom on behalf of a kidnapped Canadian citizen?
All right, that story was there on the point when we're doing the newspaper review. And by the way, Frank is Deputy Commissioner of Police, not DSP. We're taking you a little bit. That Twitter has taken you down
exactly.
several ranks. But let's come in again now. This, of course, will be getting the closing thoughts from some of our guests. Dr. Benson Olugbo, Executive Director of Clean Foundation. There are a number of points that have been on the table, but there was a report overnight from the police officer who is in charge of public complaints, Abayomi Shogunle, advising Nigerians not to speak Queen's English when they are before officers who are on the beat.
You should speak pidgin.
You should speak pidgin to avoid what they refer to as kasala. You also heard, what the chairman of police community relations also talked about. Lord Mefor himself also referenced the fact that, look, the psychology of the public to the police isn't one of friendship. Now, are we supposed to be afraid of the police? I'm not saying that you see a police officer and you behave to him arrogantly. But what does that tell us about officers who are on beat patrol? You are asked a question, you respond politely, and they say you are speaking Queen's English. If you recall, when the End SARS campaign was on, they were just looking at, fresh young boys and say, this one must have money, so get rid of him.
Yeah, even beyond, it's worrisome. In fact, I did an interview with BBC and they were asking me, is it wrong to have tattoos and dreadlocks and all those things? The law doesn't say that if you have tattoo or dreadlock, you should be arrested. The law gives you right to freedom of association. And I don't think that one speaks Queen's English or that you don't even know how to speak English should be a matter of police arresting you. I think I agree with what Law Mefor said, that there is actually need for embedding psychologists and, like you said, psychiatrists in the recruitment and even training of police officers, because certainly there is a disconnect between what should be the role of a police officer and what we are currently experiencing. And like DCP Frank Mba also said, that the society gets what it deserves. There is need to actually reorient everybody, both Nigerians and police officers, that the primary responsibility of a police officer is to protect life and property and not to take life. That is an aberration. And that is also, if you look at the argument about Nigerian police force, in 2014, we had a long debate with police officers who were in the committee when we were reviewing the previous bill. And they insisted that the force must be there because it represents what the Nigerian police is all about. And our argument is that, no, you don't need that force because somehow it's actually creating that misnomer that police is all about force. The argument they made is, if we are to remove the force, we should just leave Nigerian police because we are actually looking at, do we remove force and add service? They said no. is never a service. It's either you say it's Nigerian police force or you just leave it at Nigerian police, which is actually what is happening now. It also has a constitutional implication actually because the provisions of the constitution say you should have a Nigerian police force. But at the end of the day, I think the psychology of the police officer, also the psychology of Nigerians are important. We should all agree that the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria protects life and property. The Force Order 27, in fact, one of the problems we actually have is the Police Act has about 60 sections. The detail is in the regulations, 420 sections. And I think that is where the main work will start, probably when this law is passed and the president gives assent. And I hope the president also gives assent because that will be his own gift to Nigerians as this 8th Assembly is winding up.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Olugbo. Just a lot more to get your closing thoughts, because I'm sure Nigerians have their different experiences with the police. There are a number of very decent police officers, no doubt about that.
Like
but when
Frank here.
When you yes, and several of his colleagues, when you do get to read some of these reports, then there is alarm and then extrajudicial killing. A couple of years ago in Lagos, in Surulere, a young man was arrested. A report was published in the papers. The officers took him to the station, and part of the threat, and the gentleman was going to buy Indomie or so in the night. Part of the threat they gave to him was, make you they pray, make you not the road when devil they pass. That's from a police officer. What does that tell us? How can we get away from that orientation?
Thank you. In a nutshell, right? Like I said before, remove that word first. Nigeria police, pure and simple. Then we have to, for us in psychology, right? Perception is everything. Perception is bigger and far more important than reality. The good intentions of the IGP cannot translate to what we really want unless he really makes us see it. So we need to see that the police is the most important social asset. We have to translate that into action. How do you do that? The Nigerian police is underpaid. Let us pay them properly. If you want police force, you really have to pay to bring in the quality people you require. They are under-equipped. The number is not sufficient. In fact, Nigeria can manage even 1 million Nigerian police officers and men, but now they're under 500. And more importantly, we need to know who comes into the force. Personality traits and temperaments are not the same. There are people who are meant for Nigeria police service, like everywhere, not just a Nigerian thing. Those who you need to do certain jobs, they may be different from people you would need to do other jobs. And you do periodic psychological evaluation to be sure that none of them has caved in under stress.
All right, Lawman, thank you very much. Jumai, let's get the closing thoughts from the DCP, that's the Force Public Relations Officer. 35 years ago in this country, the argument was that the police were not sufficiently armed, and that the armed robbers could overrun them. At the time, part of the most efficient weapons that the police had was a Mark IV rifle, a Mark IV, the so-called cock and shoot. But today, the police, have all of these sophisticated guns, and the extrajudicial killing we are talking about is arising from the misuse by some of the officers, men and officers, of these weapons. What, again, in your opinion, should be done, and speedily, on both sides, the public and then the police institution?
First of all, if you permit me, let me respond to some of the side issues. The issue of tattoo dreadlocks, for instance. I want to say very clearly here, because it has actually been a big issue, particularly with the Lagos community. I want to say clearly here that tattoos and dreadlocks are not alien to our culture. I mean, Nigerians from time immemorial have always had tattoos. In the northern part of the country, the women will adorn themselves with beautiful tattoos whenever they are getting set for weddings. And even in the southern part of Nigeria, we've always had tattoos. So clearly, no Nigerian should be profiled or labeled wrongly for having tattoo. Dreadlocks have always been with us. For those who are religious purists, in the Bible, the Nazarites, Samuel, Samson, they've had dreadlocks. Rastafarians love dreadlocks. In the southern part of Nigeria, in the southwest, the southeast, Dada is a phenomenon. So Nigerians should be free to go about with their tattoos and dreadlocks. On the issue of Queen's English, we will be dealing with that internally. But I want to say that we don't have a queen in Nigeria, so Nigerians don't need to speak Queen's English. We've got Emir, so speak Emirate English. We've got Obas, speak Obas English. We've got Igwes, we've got Totis, and we've got Obayanomos. So speak our language. We don't have issues with you. If you want to speak Queen's English, speak Queen's English. It's a globalized world. And there are quite a lot of Nigerian police officers who were born abroad, who studied abroad, and who can also hold their own when you want to speak an elevated language. So we don't have issues with that. Back to the issues on the table. I want to say, yes, we've got better arms today than 35 years ago. But we still have criminals carrying RPGs. We don't have RPGs. So the issue is we will continue to equip the Nigerian police officers with the right weapons to deal with sophisticated crimes like terrorism, armed robbery, kidnapping, and armed banditry. But at the same time, we need the less lethal weapons to deal with issues that bordered in law and other challenges within our inner cities. So our responsibility and the responsibility of the police managers is to strike a balance between the two. And on the issue of extrajudicial killings, we are committed to walking our talk. All we need on the part of Nigerians is also to support us. Let's understand that extrajudicial killing has two sides. Unlawful killing of Nigerians by law enforcement agencies and unlawful killing of law enforcement agencies by Nigerians. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, DCP Frank Ubah, First Public Relations Officer. Thank you so much for coming on Good Morning Nigeria. It's a pleasure. And we also thank the Executive Director of Clean Foundation, Dr. Benson Olokbo. It's been a pleasure being in a conversation with you.
Thank you.
And Mr. Lome, for a forensic and social psychologist, thank you for your input.
Thank you.
And in our Sokoto Center, we also thank Dr. Farouk Abdullahi Meyama, National Chairman, Police Community Relations Committee, PCRC. Thank you so much for your input on the program. Now we take sports update. Actually, there's no time. We thank you so much for being part of the conversation on Good Morning Nigeria this morning. Thank you. I am Juma Yusuf.
And I'm Kingsley Osadola. We're back tomorrow, same time, 7 o'clock in the morning. Until then, enjoy the rest of your day.